Let's wait for some more people to get into the chat. I got to go in on his pseudo being a black pseudo Native American. I got to go in on these pseudo natives. That's the tribe, pseudo native. You got black Cherokees. You know, you got I think you got black Seminoles, but I've been seeing a whole lot of black pseudo natives. And these are the, I would say, black people who try to sexify being American and being an American Negro. Let me repeat that again. These are the black so-called Native Americans, black pseudo, that's a tribe, pseudo natives, who are trying to sexify being an American Negro. You ain't did shit. You don't observe nothing. You don't observe shit that culturally has to do with anything being native. You don't eat no native food. You have papados every weekend. You got a gold yaki. You wear hella makeup and you try to pass that off. Like you lightening your skin with your makeup. You try to pass that off as that's the Indian in your blood. Again, I don't see you observing nothing as far as culturally having to do with being a native. You at the Malcolm X festival. You at Juneteenth celebration. You doing all the African cultural dances. You got on the Fela Kuti backup dancers, war paint on your face. But then you want to look me in the eye and say, I'm not African. I am a native. I am indigenous to here in America. I didn't come over on a slave ship. I have nothing to do with Africa. But you're doing everything African. You partake in everything African. You partake in everything everything that has to do with Black American culture, you partake in. You don't do shit that has to do with being a Native American. You don't dress like one. You don't eat the food. You don't have the fucking language. But you want to sit here and look me dead in the eye, and we're supposed to take you serious and say that you're not African. You don't fuck with Africans, that you are a Native American. This is called being a pseudo native. I was on my Facebook page today, or on my timeline. A pseudo native posted that she could tell the difference between her and an African. That it's easy to tell the difference between a pseudo native and an African. And so she starts, and of course, other pseudo natives, because this is a tribe. This is the pseudo native tribe. This is a tribe. They start posting pictures of themselves. I'm talking about black as hell, nappy hair, and they're like, yeah, I look different from African. Have all the African features on the planet. The first main pseudo native, she's my complexion, but with all her makeup, she looks a little lighter than me. Said that she does not look African. And the picture that I'm gonna post, I'm gonna use as the avatar or whatever, is of a Senegalese woman. Picture was taken in Senegal. My complexion, the pseudo natives complexion in Senegal. People, my complexion, this we gotta understand. A lot of black people have been programmed that all Africans are freaking jet black, like this share. And they're trying to leverage that now. If you're my complexion, oh, since I'm not jet black, like this African I see on National Geographic or on CNN, that means I'm not African. I am a pseudo native now. That's what they're trying to leverage. That's what they're trying to leverage. You know, they read a book or joined a Facebook group of someone saying that they were people, black people, dark skin, woolly hair, already here before Columbus came, which is true. So now they're trying to leverage that and say, I ain't African. But all your life, you, your grandma, your mother, your great grandma, y'all been living the life of a black American. And now that you've read a book, all of a sudden you're not black, you are a pseudo native. But when it's time to be about that life, that pseudo, that real black native life, and say, wear the indigenous clothing. What's the indigenous, eat the indigenous food. Do the indigenous dances. You pseudo, but you ain't that, you native, but you're not that native. That's why you are a pseudo native. You grew up eating fatback, pork chops. You grew up eating soul food all your life, from your great grandmother all the way down. The food that we ate on the plantation, greens. You got every high-end designer in your closet. You don't observe nothing that has to do with anything culturally that's native. You don't observe native culture, but you want us to take you serious when you call yourself a native. Therefore, you are a pseudo native. That's your tribe, the pseudo native tribe. That's what tribe you're from. Because I would say this, even though a lot of these Hebrew Israelites are hella dusty, at least they wear the clothing. At least they came up with their own culture, and they observe it through their clothing. Same thing somewhat with the Moors. They wear their fez. You pseudo natives dress like the average American Negro. You listen to Fetty Wap. You listen to Young Thug. Where is the black native music at? Fetty Wap is not native music to the indigenous black people here in America. That's why you are a pseudo native. And again, you're like, oh, since I'm not jet black like this chair, that means I'm not from Africa. I'm from indigenous here to America. Then when I go to Africa, Africans think I'm one of them until I open my mouth. They come up, speak the language to me, ask me what tribe am I from, think I'm either Nigerian or South Africa. But you pseudo natives who have never been to Africa don't know that. You guys will blend in until you open your mouth. You guys will blend in with the indigenous native African. That just proves how pseudo you are. You will blend right in. Right in. But you've never been to Africa though, so you wouldn't know that. But again, in Africa, they think I'm one of them until I open my mouth. If you look at the Igbo tribe in Nigeria, people think I'm Igbo. The majority of Igbos are my complexion or even lighter. They're indigenous Africans. But you think just because you're not as black as this chair, because you don't look like the stereotypical African, that you are part of the pseudo-native tribe. Well, you are a part of the pseudo-native tribe. You think you're a native. Now, this goes back, like someone in the chat room said. Where you at? Shakari. It's called self-hate. Yes. So back when I was growing up, when I was little, the sexy thing to say was I had Indian in my blood. That was the sexy thing to say. Now that people got some books, it went from I have Indian in my blood to now I am a pseudo-native. Okay, if you have not practiced, if you just know that you are a native, and if you lived your life like a Black American for the past 4 or 5 generations, you haven't observed nothing native as far as in regards to the culture until this day, 5 generations down the line, you still don't observe anything that culturally has to do with being native, whether it be the food, the dance, the dress, the language, something. But you want to get on Facebook and tell people that you are not African because you're not as black as this chair, and that because you've never been to Africa, but all the images that are on CNN and National Geographic and Fox News are real of the Africans, and that the stereotypical African is jet black. But since I'm brown, I'm not African. That proves that I am a native because I'm not jet black, I'm brown. That's all the proof I need because I'm brown. You are a pseudo-native and you're goofy as hell. That is some goofy, dusty shit. Now, as you said, the diaspora L. Now, is there some mixture? Absolutely, I agree with that. There is some mixture. Are there some people that have indigenous mixed with African in their blood? Absolutely. But you got people on there trying to claim with no facts at all that they are 100% indigenous, but don't observe shit that has to do with being 100% indigenous. That's why you are a part of the pseudo-native tribe. That's your tribe. Not going to lie down, it's them African be talking a lot of shit. What African? But okay, say they do talk a lot of nigga. Everybody talks shit. That's the thing. What does that have to do with being all of a sudden Africans talk shit, so I want to be a pseudo-native? Because if you think you being a pseudo-native, you're gonna get respect amongst, I guess, the other Native American tribes, whether it be Cherokee, Washisaw, freaking, I don't know, Navajo. They're gonna look at you more. They're gonna look at you even crazier, even more stupid than the Africans will. Because the thing with Africans are like, excuse my glass, I dropped my glass and they're crooked as hell. The Africans, for the most part, they're like, Black Americans, we don't understand why. This is what I hear from the majority of Africans, except for some. There's a small percentage. Africans will say, Black American, we don't understand why you don't accept and embrace your African roots. That's what the majority of them say. That's what the majority of them say. Now, there might be some that will say, I mean, this is the thing. They acknowledge that you're African, but it's just, they will say, okay, you might not have any culture because you're a descendant of the slave trade. That's what a small few will say. But they acknowledge that you're African. Meanwhile, you got these pseudo-natives that will leverage that and call themselves natives. But then when you stand in front of the Cherokee, the Navajo, They're gonna look at you like you're crazy and look at you like you're stupid. But you have no issue with saying and staying firm on that you're pseudo-native, but just because an African told you that you're a man with no land, you're hella offended, and you just switch from being African American to pseudo-native. But when the natives tell you that you're not a native, that doesn't offend you to go back to being African. That's the issue. So yeah, again, are there indigenous black people that were here before Columbus? Absolutely. But the majority of these pseudo-natives are just that, pseudo-natives. Any questions? Yes, you do have $5 Indians. Absolutely. That was true. You do have $5 Indians. But again, just if you're going to claim to be a native, at least take the time out and the energy to observe something culturally that's native. Instead, you got these so-called pseudo-natives walking around and acting like the average Black American. That's all I'm saying. Okay, if the culture was erased, again, if you're that passionate about being a pseudo-native or a native, bring back the culture. That's the thing. These pseudo-natives are lazy as hell. They don't want to do anything that's culturally native. Where's your food at? Where's your clothing? I mean, where's the native songs at? I mean, just do something that's native. Again, these pseudo-natives are walking around like Black Americans and calling themselves, we're not Black, or we're walking around like African Americans and saying we aren't Black or we aren't African, we are natives. But want to do everything that's either that has to do with African Americans or just being African. That's the thing I'm saying. Because at least the Hebrew Israelites, they got their garbs, they got their clothing, they learn the language. Same thing with the Moors. These pseudo-natives are just lazy. That's my point. Because the Black people in the conscious community that identify as African, they'll learn the dances, they'll get the clothing, they'll go travel to Africa, certain countries, they'll intermingle with the people, they'll learn the languages, they immerse themselves. But these pseudo-natives are walking around immersing themselves in Black American culture. But then when you call them African American, they want to look at you like you're crazy and you're offending them, and that we're not African American, we are natives, you are indigenous. Even though we want to act like African Americans, we are not African Americans. That's why they are pseudo-natives. Crumbling Herb, hope you get there. I hope you get there. Peace, family. All right, y'all. That's all I wanted to say today. Just had to get that off my chest. Again, but you don't have to go off of what the white man says. If you're that passionate about being a native, then shit, I'll respect that you create the culture. I mean, but these pseudo-natives, They culturally have nothing to do with being native. That's the thing. Create the culture. I'll give you a prime example. Dr. Malachi Z. York. He had the Yamasee, I think it was, the Yamasee Native Americans. They created the culture. They made the culture. That's the thing. Create the culture. Okay, you're disconnected. Reconnect to it. Like I said, these pseudo natives, like, don't even attempt to reconnect to it. That's the thing. So like I said, you know, and again, this all started off of a dusty, illogical, just a dusty, non-intellectual comment that pseudo natives don't look like Africans. I'm just sitting here like, and you had the pseudo natives just putting their profile pics and their selfies and posting it, and I'm like, every one of you have a doppelganger, if I said that right, a doppelganger in Africa. And like I told the girl that started the thread, I know several women in Senegal right now. I'm gonna post a picture. I know several women in Zanzibar, in Tanzania. I know women all over Africa, South Africa to Namibia, every African country that looks just like you. So what are you talking about? But again, as you said in the chat room, they wouldn't know that if they didn't go to Africa. I mean, they wouldn't know that. And the reason why they don't know that is because they don't go to Africa. You'll see that when you go to Africa. But again, you know, just like you said that it's hard for Black Americans to reconnect to their culture because the white man took it from them or took it away from us. You got pseudo natives refusing to research who they really are just because the white man told them that Africans are all Africans are as black as this chair I'm sitting in, and they use that. And since they're brown skin, and the only reason why they're brown skin is because, you know, they're great. Because my great grandfather or grandmother was white. You know, I think just about every Black person in here, because of slavery, you have a white family member in your family. So instead of just, hey, you have a white family member in your family, that's probably why you're brown skin or light skin. And by the way, that aside, there are people in Africa, your complexion, they want to use the dusty logic that if you're black like this, you're African. If you're my complexion, you're a dusty native. I'm sorry, a pseudo native. So yeah. But anyway, that's all I had to get that off my chest. You know, Black pseudo native, stop sexifying being an American Negro. Stop it. Just stop it. Because to be so native, you guys walk around, talk like, eat like, drink like, play like the stereotypical or the typical Black American. You act like us, do everything like us, but then you talk about you a native, you're not us. So where's the native? Show me the native culture. And then when they can't show you their native culture, anything to have to do with it, that's a pseudo native. So yeah, y'all, just wanted to get that off my chest. Make sure you guys get the likes up. And I like to see these DNA tests too. I love for y'all to do some DNA tests. Everyone that's claiming to be a pseudo native, let's see the DNA test. Because at the end of the day, you guys still all originated from Africa. At the end of the day. So yeah. Donnie Samir, the Capitan Don. Make sure you guys subscribe if you're new to the page, new to the channel. Make sure you Search for Huru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Especially go on my Instagram. Please like or follow me on Instagram. Search for Huru. Make sure you go to dynastymirror.com. Make sure you go to searchforhuru.com. And make sure you go to amazon.com. Search your name, Dynasty Mirror. Buy a book. Till next time. Peace.